Hello class and welcome to this Ice Climber NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and being based on an arcade game, this game is very difficult, one of those all-time easy to pick up, very difficult to master titles. And if you have designs on scaling to the summit at the end of 32 levels, I'm going to give Ice Climber for the NES a 9 out of 10. On the frustration scale, this equates to writhing on the floor, cursing in tongues, and, you know, we've been writhing far too often for my liking as of late. I just thought, it's December at the time of this class, let's do a good December time of year game. I forgot how difficult this game is. Probably not what you want to hear from your professor, but don't worry, we've got some tips for getting you through all 32 levels. There's no true ending to Ice Climber, or any ending really, after those 32 levels. They just loop the same design more or less while making the enemies and conditions more difficult, so we'll be taking you through that 32nd level. Speaking of enemies, Blaze is going to offer some tips on how to deal with the baddies you'll see here in Ice Climber, and Fluff has a number of interesting facts and maybe a tip or two about this game on top of it. So let's run the intro and get into this Ice Climber NES walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. As we begin a new game here in Ice Climber, you can see the Condor taking the mythical eggplant up to the top of the mountain. They call the levels here in Ice Climber mountains, and that will change every level through 10 levels, and it will start to repeat. But yeah, we'll talk more about that. But right now, let's take a look at the controls for Ice Climber. Jump with A, swing that mallet or hammer with B. Pause the action with start, move around with the D-pad, and note the longer you hold down left or right ahead of a jump, if you hold it down long enough, you'll have more of a horizontal spread on that jump, so you can cover more ground. That is the main mechanic to master in this game. Really the only mechanic, but yeah, it's going to take a lot of doing to figure that one out and effectively get the kind of jumps that you want. I can get through the entire game and still not always get the kind of jumps that I want. And then once you get high enough, you get to the bonus area of the stage. And this is purely for points right here. If you fall down in the gap, or if you fall down at any point as the screen scrolls up a little bit, then no harm, no foul. You don't get the points that you would get from reaching the top and connecting with the Condor that we saw at the top, but you get to move on to the next stage. That's the most important thing. So, but if you do make it all the way up to the top, last order of business to get the big bonus on every stage is to jump in the Condor's talons just like that. Sometimes he'll go straight across, sometimes he'll peel off early and turn around and go on the other side of the screen, as you can see right there. But for reaching the top, we get a 3,000 point bonus, plus all of the little bonuses which we picked up over the course of the stage, including the vegetables in the bonus stage there. Yeah, that bonus will keep going up until it maxes out at 50,000. And note that this is tied to the actual bonus stage itself, not how many you've knocked out. So, in case you miss a whole bunch and eventually you just, you know, you're around level 20 something and you finally hit a bonus, it's going to be worth 50,000. So, not too shabby. But similar to the Condor, you'll see that we can move across the screen left to right. I kind of liken this game to Kid Icarus in a lot of ways in the gameplay. It's not nearly as tight, the gameplay, but just in the sense that we're vertically scrolling up the screen slowly and obviously able to move, in some cases, left to right and turn back out on the other side of the screen. In this case, the Condor turned around once again. But we're 2 for 2 right there and reaching the tops of the bonus stages. This one should be worth a bit more. There you go, 5,000 versus the 3,000 we got for the first one. You'll see the vegetables we collect are not worth as much as reaching the top, so we should always prioritize that with the limited time which we have in those bonus stages. Level 3 actually, which we're on right now, it's probably the first bonus stage where it's already time to start thinking about forgetting the vegetables, just because the longer you take once we get up here, as you'll see, the more the moving platforms will get increasingly out of sync, so it's nearly impossible to get to the top. So we do want to prioritize getting up to the top over grabbing these heads of lettuce, but I have it on good authority that we can wait one loop before we go up there. But you can see that the higher clouds are moving at a faster clip than some of these lower ones, so it just gets to the point where they're just completely out of sync and you just can't make the jumps reliably there. See, we only could have made that jump right to left right there from platform to platform by having a little bit of speed before we made that jump right there. And this is one of the stages where the condor breaks midway on the screen, but didn't hurt us. And the amount of time which you finish in does not have a bearing on your bonus either, for what it's worth. But moving on up, 6,000 points. Not that the points are important, really. But I'm sorry, I keep putting this off. Let's take a look, finally, at the Briggs notes for this Ice Climber NES walkthrough. The keys to beating this game first. Follow this route. The layouts of each mountain are always the same, by which I mean this is Mountain 4. This will always look like this once you get to it. And so I'm following what's oftentimes the easiest route up to the top based on running these many, many times. Of course, that can vary occasionally depending on where new ice is added. And you see these enemies coming out here, which are, once they spot a hole in the ice, a gap, they will come back out and fill that in, which makes, I mean, sometimes that can work to your advantage, sometimes it's more frustrating depending on the situation, but yeah, we'll talk more about that. Blaze will talk about the enemies here in a second. But yeah, as a general rule, the route I take on each mountain to scale up to the top is a reliable one. Secondly, use the sides of the screen. It's easy to forget sometimes as you're analyzing the layout, trying to figure out the best third or quarter column to scale next, that you can go off the screen, off to the left side to pop out on the right side and vice versa. Oftentimes each individual row which you scale has an easier column on one side or the other, so going off screen to come out on the other side is a good move for positioning yourself, repositioning yourself for an easier scale to the next row. A third, commit to swings, by which I mean hold down B for automatic built-in turbo when an enemy is near, especially that nitpicker or those bird enemies basically. Again, Blaze is going to talk about them, but you're typically better off just holding down B when an enemy, especially the speedy bird, is flying in, rather than just trying to time the swing. I had that problem a lot when I first started playing. You think you've timed the swing perfectly, then it ends just before the bird gets to you and you die. So always just hold down B to continually swing until the enemy is down, as this is not always, but generally the better strategy. And lastly, let the topies, these are these little guys that are filling in the ice right there, let them do their jobs. And once they see a hole in the ice, they will quickly retreat to the opposite side and come back out with a bit of ice to fill it in for you. We can use this to our advantage, and this is somewhat of a necessity on some levels late in the game to secure the ice before we try doing a dangerous jump. So just, ensuring that we have that safety net beneath us. Every now and then you'll see one of these special surfaces. This is a moving walkway right here, and the direction of the lines denotes which way it's going to be moving you. In this case, if the lines are going right to left from the top to the bottom, that's how you know it's moving to the left, and then vice versa if they start out on the top and then move down to the right. So, and I'm told, Fluff, you have a topical Fluff fact to share with us real quick?
It's rare that I cite a fact which you can find right in the instruction manual, but it's important to point out that picking up a piece of corn on the bonus levels of Mountains 5, 15, 25, etc. will earn you an extra life. Also note that the screen only shows 3 lives on the screen at once, in case you're wondering why nothing visually changes. The game definitely doesn't make this obvious on the end of Mountain screen or anywhere else, outside of the manual, of course.
Good call, Fluff. Yeah, such a random thing, picking up corn of all things, spotting you that extra life, but moving on now to Mountain 6, and you can see that the pacing is picking up a little bit. Platforms are moving a bit faster. Enemies in some cases as well. It's getting more and more intense here in Ice Climber. And have another moving walkway here. You can see this time it's going to the right, starting out at the top on the left and then going down and to the right. So be ready to start pushing back against that when you step on it, and that is a very fast moving platform right there. That's an instance where you probably need to come in from the left side, just because it's moving so quickly that to get to that next level platform. You won't have enough time if you come in from the right to make that subsequent jump. Nice thing about going against the direction the platforms are going in is that you can more reliably land one of those longer jumps as you're starting to walk against it, just to get to where you want to go. And yeah, if I could do nothing but the longer jumps of the two links. Get our bonus for this one. Let's see what we get at the end of level 6 here, Mountain 6 I should say. 10,000. Our first 5-figure bonus here. I have a personal goal of hitting 1 million points, but we'll see. So in this stage we can go right to left here to come out on the other side. A lot easier than trying to work your way up through that very tiny window. It helps when the topies come out on the right side of this stage, of this particular floor on this mountain here, as if they start filling in the right side, then you can use this platform and then make this jump right here. Unfortunately, you can't control the behavior of the topies in terms of, I guess, which side they come out on, one or the other, but yeah, if you get lucky there, it's a little bit easier taking them on from that side versus the other. So now let's try not to waste this. Before that topi fills in the gap there, you can see from experience here that they can fill in 2 gaps wide with one of their little ice blocks. If there's only one gap, they'll fill that in, but they can easily fill 2 gaps in the ice, which you've chipped out or were pre-existing there with just one of their little ice blocks that they bring in. Feeling pretty good though if we can get the bonus here on Mountain 7. Not an easy one from the start. We're climbing up with the bonuses here, no pun intended. We are starting to earn some nice ones, 20,000. Only here on Mountain 7, only about a quarter of the way through the game here. I guess with this being Mountain 8 and there being 32 mountains. But I teased this earlier, let's finally bring in Blaze for an overview on the enemies here in Ice Climber. And before we go to them, just want to point out you can jump into those icicles as they're falling, or even as they're forming on top of the cloud to get rid of them. The only thing you can't do is not be jumping into them when they fall on your head, whether you're walking around or stationary, as that will kill you. As most things will in this game if they make contact with you. But anyway, Blaze, what do you got?
Alright, a rare game with no items, so instead let's talk the relative few enemies here in Ice Climber. Beginning with a kind of miniature Yeti, Topi will appear from the sides on a single floor/level and will fill in gaps on the ice. He's actually not here to kill you, he's just doing his job, but if you make contact with Topi, he will definitely mess you up and you lose one of your precious few lives. Note that you're safe from the topies so long as none of your body is spilling over the sides of the rocks on the sides of the screen, which works out to be about 3.5 blocks. For a more violent solution, you can hammer the topies, or Super Mario style, just hit the ground they're on from underneath to have them fall through it. Note that if you hit the ground beyond where they've already walked, and then they turn around to speed up to go get some ice, then they'll fall through that newly made hole by you and still be defeated. Alright, next we have Nitpicker, a bird which flies around on the screen in circles rather than aiming for you before exiting off. Just like with Topi though, if you get in its way, you'll lose a life. You can hammer or even jump into this enemy to defeat it. Just make sure you jump with it directly over top of you to hammer it, rather than hitting it with, say, your forehead, which will cost you a life. Yeah, they're kind of picky with that hitbox. No pun intended, but yeah, note that there's also a safe spot for Nitpicker on the wings, meaning the sides of the screen, but you need to get farther over than you would with the topies. Stand between the first and second blocks on either side, and this will keep you safe, as they'll just disappear off screen just before hitting you. The coolest looking creature on the slopes in a pair of shades and a pink Speedo is the plainly named Polar Bear. He's a rare sight here in Ice Climber, and he only appears above you if you're taking too long on any particular level within a level. Specifically, if you don't advance the screen up at least one floor/level for 70 seconds, he'll mosey out, and at that 75th second, he'll jump up and stomp down. forcing the perspective of the screen up a level and you to lose a life if you're so unfortunate as to be on that bottom level when he does it. Lastly, we have Condor, who won't actually hurt you. On the contrary, and as you've likely already gathered from the professor, your job is to jump in the Condor's talons in order to get the bonus before you move on to the next level/mountain.
Thank you, Blaze, and well worth it to do so. And you can see these moving walkways here are getting pretty speedy in some cases now. You need to be ready to walk against them, and that is one speedy cloud on top of that. Very dangerous. And it seems like it's trending in that direction, so this might be our first 50K if we can make it to the summit here on mountain number 10. And you'll notice that you can jump into these platforms. You just can't jump from underneath them. So if you're kind of moving in an angle left to right or right to left when you're coming into them, you can sort of go through the sides. It's a little picky. You learn as you go, the more experience you have with the game, but this is going to come down to the wire. He's not going to get here in time, is he? Oh, action shot right there. I'd be crying too. That's all right. We move on to mountain 11, and Blaze mentioned the polar bear who's hanging out here on the slopes. If you wait long enough, I think he said, 70 seconds, the polar bear appears in those intervals and forces the screen up, so basically forcing you into action very slowly. But I'm told, Fluff, you have a bit of a hack when it comes to the polar bear, or how about you tell us?
Here's a pro tip for you, Professor, and to the class. If you do happen to lose a life, which, who am I kidding in this game, make the most of that indefinite invincibility when you come back before you touch any buttons on the controller. Blaze mentioned that the polar bear appears if you don't advance the screen for 70 seconds, and will advance the screen up a floor or level each time he comes out. Normally you'd die if you're on that lowest level when this happens, but if you're still enjoying that invincibility and flashing, the game will automatically pull you up to the next level without taking another life. It will continue doing this all the way up to the 6th floor of the level, at which point the polar bear will no longer appear. As such, you can do the world's slowest, not to mention the shortest warp, going from the start of any mountain to the 6th floor, where the end is just a couple jumps away. Sure, it'll take about 6 minutes all total to get you up there, but this is an easy way to basically skip a mountain you're having trouble with, like a couple particularly difficult entries late in the game. Plus, I figure a short snack break is in order from time to time, in this game anyway, to reset those nerves.
It most certainly is. Thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, that is a good trick, actually. There are a couple levels late in this game, which I find to be especially difficult. 2 or 3. But, just trying to thread this here. This is... It's kind of silly how difficult some of the platforming stretches of this game are. But I find it charming despite myself. Not frustrated yet, I will say. But Fluff touched on it. That's a good point to make, to establish that if you do die, when you come back you will be flashing, and you're invincible until you hit any button on the controller. So obviously jumping or swinging your hammer, but also just even buttons which aren't really mapped to anything, don't have any purpose in the game, like hitting down. So just something to keep in mind, as your temporary invincibility will wear off at that point. I guess better said your indefinite invincibility, because it's there until you hit anything. See, a nice hack. Force the screen up and just kind of cheat your way to the top of the mountain. This is going to be tricky here. Can we... Using that backwalk, and we wasted it. We squandered it there at the end. That's alright if we can go on a bit of a tear when it comes to hitting those bonuses later. Again, 50,000 per. And these are moving, these clouds right here. Yeah, if I could change one thing, if I could just make it so that every jump was the slightly longer of the 2 jumps, regardless of how long you've held down, left or right. That would make this game so much easier, but it's probably precisely why you can't do that in this game. That's why they included both, but Alright, so want to prioritize where the floor above us is a bit thinner, like right there, especially before the topies get involved. And this is where the polar bear would force us up to, or that's as high as he would go, as he doesn't come out above this layer right here. And then it's most of the stages a relatively short couple of hops to get to the bonus area here, so doesn't do all the work for you, Fluff's hack right there, but does a lot of the heavy lifting. Alright, it's been a while since we've earned one. No excuses, we got about 30 seconds to jump into this Condor's talons. Can't make up its mind. You playing coy with us, Condor? There we go. Such an awkward little hitbox there with the talons, but relatively easy to hit, assuming it's not about to turn around on you. But there's our 50,000. Quarter of the way to 1,000,000 points, which is just bragging rights as far as I'm concerned, but I did make a big deal out of it. Oof, that was tight. Tight turnaround right there. And you can see the layout of this one is annoying because each little side area is blocking us off for one, but also just getting tighter and tighter. So there we go. Not easy. You can see you also can't break your way through every type of surface in this game. There's some which cannot be penetrated, so. And that is moving. That is zipping right there, that cloud. I love it though. You can have some stages in this game, some mountains, which can take a lot of trial and error, a lot of prep work, a lot of waiting for topies to help you out in some cases, and then you can have others which you can knock out in about 20 seconds. Minus the bonus stage, of course, and this is just trying to get them to sync up a bit better for us. I think this will do right here. Get some momentum, and there we go. 10 seconds to work with. There we are, 2 in a row. Does that count as a streak right there, too? Anyway, as you continue to follow along as we go on to Mountain 15, don't miss the corn, by the way, in the bonus area once we get there, but let's go back to Fluff now for our first more conventional fact about Ice Climber. Fluff?
Ice Climber is probably a 1985 NES game based on the 1984 or 1985 arcade title of the same name, hence the game's difficulty. I say probably because Ice Climber is a perfect example of Nintendo's notoriously bad habit of poor to non-existent record keeping regarding their games' release dates, especially relative to different versions of the same game, whether it's NES, Famicom, or arcade. And don't even get me started on versus arcade versions. With conflicting sources regarding which versions preceded one another, let's all just agree Ice Climber is a game about climbing on ice. It was co-produced by Masayuki Uemura and Shigeru Miyamoto, and featured Kazuhiyaki Morita in his earliest programming role before he'd move right into serving in the same role on his next job in 1985's Super Mario Bros. Ice Climber served as one of the 17 launch titles which the NES debuted in America in 1985, along with 10-Yard Fight, Baseball, Clue Clue Land, Duck Hunt, Excite Bike, Golf, Gyromite, Hogan's Alley, Kung Fu, Pinball, Soccer, Stack Up, Super Mario Bros., Tennis, Wild Gunman, and Wrecking Crew. While the professor is obviously playing the single-player mode, Ice Climber is one of the earlier NES and Famicom titles to feature simultaneous co-op play, with player 1 controlling the blue outfit-dressed Popo and player 2 controlling the pink outfit sporting Nana. The two players can work together to reach the summit of each mountain until the bonus round, at which point they must compete to reach the Condor first. Its vertical scrolling was relatively novel at the time, a concept which would be fleshed out for subsequent classic titles like Metroid and Kid Icarus. Partly due to its existence as one of the earliest NES titles, Ice Climber has earned its place on the top 50 best-selling titles on the system, moving 1.5 million copies since its 1985 release, and has seen about a dozen ported releases to subsequent generation Nintendo systems in the decade since its initial release.
Thank you, Fluff. Just letting Topi do his job here, as we've been talking about, and yeah, that's when the action can slow down a little bit. That's why I made sure to ask Fluff to deliver every single one of those black box titles as slowly as possible. Just as we rehearsed, Fluff. Thank you very much. But yeah, this was one of the few black box titles which I'm not sure that I didn't have it, at least as a kid. I think I may have bought it from a pawn shop or something later on when I was doing more in my collecting phase of the early 2000s. Building out the collection, the library, if you will. But yeah, just trying to... Always got to be mindful of those icicles as well. Sometimes that can be the trap which gets you. You can be aware of everything else, but yeah, sometimes it's just bad timing, basically. And you can't react, you can't get out of the way depending on where you're standing at the time. There we go. Kind of lucked into that one, but we'll take it. You'll see, sometimes you have just enough of a foothold on that platform to move things up to the bonus stage, but then obviously not enough in the game's mind, as you'll immediately drop off right there. But just as we dropped off and missed out on the bonus, but halfway home now. Admittedly, they do get more difficult the deeper we get to 32, so can expect the back half to take a bit longer with them being more difficult on balance, but still feeling good. And you'll note that when we're on one of these moving walkway areas on the same level, they apply it to the wings of the floor, if you will, as well. So there's something to be aware of. Also important to be aware that you do not want to obviously scroll out the bottom of your screen, if at all possible, until you are sure that you can make it to the next floor right there, as we managed right there. Got some sad looking jack-o'-lanterns here, and that was pretty sad too. Alright, starting to wonder about our 1,000,000 point goal, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, as we're working on mountain number 18 here, let's go back to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Ice Climber.
Like most games, there are some notable regional differences between the various versions of this game. For instance, the original Japanese version of Ice Climber features a cute little blue seal as Topi, in place of the little white Yeti. I suppose Nintendo rightfully decided that seal clubbing via mallet wouldn't play as well in America and abroad, so it was switched to the Yeti as we know him. The Versus Ice Climber title additionally features two enemies which aren't present in the NES version, including the wand-carrying bee. The condor was also replaced in certain stages with a butterfly in this version, with players likewise needing to jump and catch the butterfly's legs to earn the big bonus. Video game logic or not, ouch for that butterfly.
Yeah, that couldn't have felt good. Having little Popo, not so little Popo, grabbing onto the butterfly's wings, or however that works out to be. Just trying to time up this jump as this platform comes out. It'll be very difficult, and you saw, was a little worried about the ice right there, but let's just loop this, and up we go. Yeah, the seal clubbing, kind of like how they took out in the Western version of Super Mario World, the ability for Yoshi to chow down on all those dolphin-looking creatures. It's a different culture. But anyway, we move on to mountain number 19. And they are ratcheting up the difficulty here, not giving us a whole lot to work with, and you can see as that screen scrolls up right there, we're losing our parachute, so you have to basically be very confident in your ability to get up at that point, and you have to be very aware of which direction these moving ice platforms are going. Obviously starting out on the left up top and going down and to the right, so these are going to the right. Some sad potatoes as well, but don't care about that, just going for the big prize, not trying to risk our safety picking up any of these others. And probably need to do a nice long jump to get up there. doing this? There we go. We at 500,000 yet? We're coming up on it. How much are those potatoes worth? All right, 5,000 apiece. See, you get the points for the nitpickers and icicles you hit and all those good things as well. Sometimes some of the simpler layouts on the mountains can be deceptively more difficult. Not saying this qualifies, but just getting us ready for what's coming up ahead. See, I do have my picks for the hardest and runner-up in terms of difficult stages in this game. We're still a ways off. You can see you can't jump up against a wall, especially if you're moving in the opposite direction. It'll just force you to bounce off kind of annoyingly. Very frustrating. Alright, that kind of worked out. We were far enough away to the left that, and then got to time that icicle. Yeah, that we were able to have enough clearance to make that jump there. Not taking any chances with these nitpickers. And that's not going to do it. A little lazy, a little sloppy. That's alright. Made it up for some more gnarly looking mushrooms. Yeah, it's my fault for going for them, because then I got to reposition myself on that platform and, well, it's slippery here on the mountain. And only a couple little cut-throughs here. Much easier to get through on the right side by going around than it is on that side. You can bounce off, though, as you can see right there. Just give me some room here, Topi. Work with me. I know you got a job to do, so do I. My job is climbing and killing all your friends, apparently. Grabbing the odd piece of corn. Grabbing onto a condor. It sounds like a fever dream when you describe it out loud, I suppose. Oof. That's where you kind of want those topies to fill in the ground beneath you, actually. Have them fill in that safety net. You will notice that they appear on pretty much every other floor on each mountain, for what it's worth, so... Yeah, I don't know if it would help or hurt to have them on every single floor. Probably a combination of both, depending on the situation. There it is, just as Blaze mentioned. Just kind of in their... Oof, that was a gimme. In their haste to do their job, and that was another gimme, to fill in that ice right there. They just slip in that gap that you create. That is moving, that top cloud right there. Did not have enough maneuverability to turn to the right there. Oh. Yeah, this game would be so much simpler if the controls were more precise, if they were more forgiving with the hitboxes for just landing your feet on the platform above you. Yeah, this is where the game gets frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. There we go. Alright, let's not squander this now. Let this Topi fill in the ice. So we have solid ground to make that jump right there. We've come full circle back to the eggplants again, which also incidentally makes me think of Kid Icarus. Yeah. Sometimes your brain just, you can't process it quickly enough. You just kind of commit to one direction, and that's what happened right there, but anyway. Mountain 22, this is a good reminder to be ready for those topies if you're kind of trapped on one side. The third floor here, if you climb up too fast on that left side, The bird can trap you between yourself and the topi with a timing such that it's impossible to defend yourself, so you want to wait in the wing until you determine what side that topi's going to come out on. And this is fun right here. Pulling out all the stops at this point. And note that, yeah, one square is it's just enough clearance. It's Popo size right there. We can just make that work. And then if we jump and then press to the right, that's how you can make that jump right there. Because if you jump and press to the right prematurely or jump and press right simultaneously, then you will just end up bouncing off of that wall, as I demonstrated and pointed out earlier. Yeah, they need to make Ice Climber with controls that are a little less stiff. I would happily play that game. Let's not be greedy here. Alright, we're going to have to start to be greedy as that timer's winding down, and we are at the mercy of some slow-moving clouds right now. And this is not going to happen. Oh well. That's alright. That's alright. Alright, moving on to Mountain 23, let's go back to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Ice Climber.
A lot of folks want to know what the two characters in Popo and Nana's relationship is. I mean, are they boyfriend and girlfriend, siblings? What's their deal? Well, I'm here to tell you that Super Smash Bros. Creator Masahiro Sakurai has said that the pair are childhood friends, adding, quote, like boy and girl pair. Yeah, thanks for the weird clarification, Masahiro. He also described their relationship as being less than lovers, but more than friends. You know, kind of like that relationship you have with that attractive childhood friend of yours that makes your current girlfriend extremely uncomfortable. There's been a lot of confusion regarding that relationship over the years, with different sources claiming or speculating different things. Popular Nintendo-focused gaming magazine of yesteryear and Nintendo Power didn't help matters much by once upon a time referring to them as siblings, and many still argue that it's meant to be left open to interpretation, but there you go, more information than you needed to know, especially in part about a character in Nana that you won't even see in our run of this game, as she's reserved for the second player.
That is true, thank you very much, Fluff. Yeah, probably just a lot of sad dudes who think they have a chance with Nana, saying that, hey, we don't know what their relationship is, just leave it open to interpretation. That's what I choose to do. Okay. Anyway, you could just make that jump right there, as you can see, and that goes back to the whole, you can sort of jump through the corners of platforms right there. And we have a little bit of time here. We might be able to pull this off. You turn it around. That was a little sloppy on my part, a little late. Got one last chance to do this. There we go, class. Trying to get back on schedule here. Was that Mountain 23? Yep. There's our 50,000. It's not inconceivable. It's unlikely. But it's possible. We could turn this around. Our little side bet with ourselves here. Side challenge. So Mountain 24, this is a perfect example of a level where we want to work these sides because of the movement of the walkways here, as you can see, moving back and forth. Going left and then going right on this next level right here. Or vice versa, as the case may be. It's an absolute must, and we'll just let it take us over here. And I find it's a bit easier to discern the direction when it's the blue surface rather than the brown one. I don't know. Maybe just the black against the brown tends to blend in just a bit more, tangle up my brain a bit, but a bit more obvious here in the blue. And this is, we're in a nasty little confined area there. A little bit of wiggle room to work with, but yeah, if the icicles started coming in fast at us, it's getting a little dangerous, is what I'm trying to say. All right. Can we extend our or create a streak, better said? Get back on track here. I think we got this one. There we go. And give me 20 seconds. I think I got, well, all right. Thought he's going to turn around there. There you go. To his credit, he knows what we're trying to do. I wouldn't want a little snow person trying to jump onto my talons either. 50,000 though. Alright, level 25. If we were going to have a 5th Briggs note, it would be to clear out ice where you aren't planning on stepping or it could potentially fall as you continue to try to scale. And, yeah, not very catchy or memorable, probably why it didn't make the list, but the start of this level is a great example of that. We have some tricky platforming to do as we try to clear out access to the next floor here. So the less gaps we leave beneath us for when we fall, the better. So I want to make that opening over on the right side, as I did just getting it out of the way. It's a pro tip right there. Maybe not quite as pro as Fluff's, which we thankfully haven't had to fall back on yet. Like to think that if we do end up losing a life that we'll still play through as intended. We showed that that was a possibility, so there you go. Try to beat this honestly here. But it's very difficult when you got clouds moving at this clip. Oof, my goodness. That was close. Oof. Alright, managed to luck out on that one. I think I might have been better off on the left side here. And I'm in a bit of a pickle here if we do get an icicle dropping at just the right, by which I mean the wrong time. Alright, you fill that in. I'm gonna try this again. It's so difficult when they're moving this quickly to time these jumps. Even if the platform we were standing on was not moving. And then making that jump to exit out of that on top of it is just... it's a little silly. Not gonna lie. My goodness. This is why this game takes as long as it does. You think 32 levels and each one can be more or less efficiently beaten in about 30 seconds? Well, this is where things slow down. By way of the speed, but there we go. And back to the corn apparently. Forgot we are on 25 right now. Don't be greedy. There we go. What's gonna make me even more annoyed is if we get to like 998,000 or something like that. If I come so close, as we just keep racking up these 50,000s here late in the game. But if I blow this in the end, I'm gonna be very disappointed, even though this has no bearing on the ending, just to, and again, there is no ending. So what are we talking about here, class? We're talking about mountain number 26 here. This is where that final Briggs note of let the topies do their jobs comes into play. It's on full display on this one. Sometimes it's best to just take a breath, hang in the wings, and let them resurface, or better said, create the ice before you try making a dangerous jump. This one shouldn't be too bad, it's just going to be some needle threading. Let's just make sure we get this one last bit of ice covered in. Alright. Now we'll attempt to get out of the way of this icicle, but now... first try, there we go. And then this isn't too bad here. Just about not jumping prematurely. And we got the anthropomorphic onions right here with the little faces. I mean, they all got faces, but I feel like we should be picking these up and throwing them at Wart's face, for those who get the reference. Which I'm assuming is most everyone watching this. Come on, 50k, there we go. Not gonna lose this one, we've got 15 seconds on the clock. There we go. Alright, where are we in the point count? Alright, looking good. 3/4 the way there. Not going to be feeling good for long because Mountain 27, which we're coming up on now, this is my bane. Arguably the hardest level in the game, in my opinion. But the Topies do their job on the 3rd floor here to give yourself some floor to work with. I prefer the right side, as the platform jump is a little too precise on the left, as you'll find yourself bouncing off the left wall and back down again. And it's even more tricky if the Topies on the next floor haven't started filling in things there yet, so... But there you go, that's about as well as you can do that right there. Although I do have to credit the Topies helping me out. I'd say that kind of bums them out, you know, that they want me to fail, but I just feel like they're oblivious. They're just here to do their job. Collect their pay. Take it home to their Topi family. We're all just out here working class, right? And just working the sides, finding the side of opportunity. Letting him fill in a bit more of this floor for me. As you can see, that's a very fast moving cloud right there. And it's gonna make, oh, that kills me. First death, no death run compromise. That literally killed me right there. Lost our first life. Yeah, the icicles, what didn't I say it earlier? They are the wild card here in Ice Climber. Oh well. That's alright, we've still got the side pod, right? We just want to beat this game. As much as I would love the no death run, be far too frustrating to start over from the beginning at this point. We're gonna run out of room right here. Oh, that hurts. Insult to injury after we lost our first life here on Mountain 27. Alright, maybe another Fluff fact will take the sting of that first death off. Fluff, what do you got?
Earlier I referenced Super Smash Bros., and specifically that series creator Masahiro Sakurai. While Ice Climbers as a game has largely been forgotten in a sea of other arcade titles and arcade to NES ports, Popo and Nana are probably best known for their appearances in said massively popular Super Smash Bros. Fighting series, with the pair making their debut in 2001's Super Smash Bros. Melee for the GameCube. Super Smash Bros. As a series has a penchant for reviving the careers of otherwise forgotten Nintendo video game characters. Well, at least in the context of fighting to the death. Ugh. This is something I touched on in our class on Earthbound Beginnings, aka Mother, as Ness from Earthbound, not to be confused with Ninten from Beginnings, is also arguably best known for his appearances in those games, despite how fantastic Earthbound is, of course. Popo and Nana also appeared in 2008's Super Smash Bros. Brawl for the Nintendo Wii, but were skipped from an appearance in Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, despite initially being planned, as technical issues related to the 3DS version forced Sakurai to keep them out of both versions just to maintain parity. In response to the decision, Sakurai admitted that the pair's inclusion was low priority due to the obvious fact that there just hadn't been a new or any version of Ice Climbers outside of ports since the initial game's release. It did, however, return in the most recent title in the series, at least at the time of this class, in the 2018 Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which greatly expanded on the character roster, even including non-Nintendo characters like Sonic, Pac-Man, and even Metal Gear's leading man, Solid Snake. On paper, Popo and Nana against Solid Snake doesn't seem like a great matchup, by the way. I think, I know who my money would be on. Just saying.
That's right, strength in numbers, Popo and Nana all the way, Fluff, I hear ya. Anyway, getting back to it. Mountain 29, we are coming up on the final few stages in this game. 29 is not as bad as 30. 30's worse. But 30's not as bad as 27, I have to say. I think 27 is my least favorite stage. And it happened to be the one, it's definitely my least favorite now because it's the one that I died on. But yeah, 30 is, this wasn't too bad if I don't biff it there in the end. But, or those sad potatoes. You'll see why I hate 30 in just a moment. Actually, you might not. I mean, every single mountain in this game looks kind of similar. It's not like there's going to be, a lava level or spikes or anything like that. They're not going to drastically change the presentation of the game up at this point, but yeah. Some configurations of stages are more difficult than others. We can say that. Oh my goodness. With 3 mountains to go. Can we get... Well, we might not even need... Depending... I don't know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Yeah, level 30, Mountain 30 is also my bane. The hardest remaining level left in the game. Just getting up to the next area is one of the hardest challenges of this game. That is very good. That worked out swimmingly. But yeah, if you just can't get up there or just become too frustrated to even try anymore, I mean, the polar bear will take care of that for you. But my point is, yeah, just use Fluff's trick at that point, where you just sacrifice that life as you get scrolled off or whatever happens, and then, yeah, go make a sandwich or something. Make yourself a snack class. You've earned it by getting this far in this game. I will tell you that. And just timing this jump when they're coming out from nowhere against that wall at full speed. Very tricky. One last mushroom appearance, at least for this class. And we don't need them both, but this one would certainly help. We don't need them all, I should say, but this would make the next one a lot I was going to say a lot less pressured. Wow, just threw that away at the last second, but... Alright. Yeah, I think one more summit, plus a couple of whatever the next veggie is, we might be in good shape, but... Here on the penultimate mountain, alright, well, I say we're in good shape, and now we don't have a surface to fall back on right here. This one is pretty silly, I'm not gonna lie. I've had better luck on this one. It's just that initial part of 30, getting up those clouds, even though it went very smoothly this time. Sometimes just trying to outpace the falling icicle as you're walking against the treadmill here on whatever floor you're on. Sometimes you can get a little... I'm just going to take out that topia right there. It's kind of the point I'm trying to make. Sometimes you can get a little impatient in situations like this where you just keep going around in loops because you know, obviously the polar bear is on your mind. He's going to make an appearance soon. You have that in the back of your head, so you tend to force jumps. You tend to leave topies beneath you that you shouldn't, because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make this jump. I'm not going to be back down on that floor. You just become overly confident, and then, yeah, you fall back down right onto that topie, so... Just a reminder to, yeah, clear out your work area. They've got a job to do, so do you. Again, just killing them, and grabbing some corn on top of a mountain. And I guess ensuring that the condor is going to have to schedule an appointment for the orthopedic surgeon at some point. Tick that off the list as well, hopefully. Just need one more to clear that 1 million point mark. And I feel like they engineered it in such a way that, yeah, by the time you hit Mountain 32, you're going to be right hovering around that 1 million point mark. Just to add to the drama of the moment. And we have generated drama by biffing up that last jump, so come on, Condor. Let's get you an appointment with... There it is. Alright. That should be enough, I believe. Let's see what the added bonus is on top of that. 2 of those. There we go. And a little anticlimactic. It just loops the counter right there, but... That's fine. We are on to the final mountain here in Ice Climber before things begin to reset. And you'd think they'd go out with a doozy, but no, this is Definitely not the most difficult of all the mountains in this game. In fact, made that look pretty darn easy. But there you go, ending on the carrot stage right here. That is all 32 mountains in Ice Climber. Can we go out on a high note? I don't even care at this point. I say that, I'm starting to make excuses for myself here, but if we could end on one final condor, that would be a nice little exclamation as I add challenges on top of challenges for myself here at the end. There it is. So at this point it just repeats back. It's mountain 33, but it's the same layout as the first mountain, just everything is a bit faster and more difficult, so we're going to end things here. Thank you so much for attending this class. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to Enroll in Video Games 101. Do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. We'd love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too if you don't mind. It really does help us out to make future classes for you. And leave a comment. Have you gotten through all 32 mountains here in Ice Climber? What do you think Popo and Nana's relationship is? But there you go. That's our time. Big thanks to my TAs this week in Blaze and Fluff. Fluff especially for sharing some facts and tips for this one. But you know what? No, I'm not having it. Popo deserves a better ending, so let's give it to him, class. There you go, Popo. You earned it. We'll see you next week, class. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.